Hi everyone, I'm doing this video just as a bit of a recap of some of the things that I did with my sister and my mother last week. We were all gathered together because it was my mother's birthday. She's in her 90s and she's a pretty amazing woman. She lives on her own, looks after herself pretty much, with a little bit of help from some carers who come in the morning, and she plays word games on her iPhone, which we show off to everybody we know about. We call it skiting. And we decided that we would do some art, some crafts with her. My sister and I both got into doing some mixed media. It's actually about 7 years ago now. We both started doing it quite independently and then realised what we were doing, so share our ideas and share what we create. And it was actually really good doing this together because it's got me a little bit more into working at home now I've returned. So these are the things that I made. I didn't take photos of everybody's things, never thought about it at the time, except for on the last day I have some pictures of everyone's tags and everyone's little zine that I will share the photos at the end of this video. So Mum was pretty unsure on the first evening that we did this, but over the course of 3 or 4 nights she became really quite independent and thinking about things, which we were pretty proud of her. So the first night we made, first of all, an envelope. Oh, I haven't put the envelope out. Just an ordinary little envelope. And then I think on the same night, we must have pushed her, we did lots of things, then made an envelope again. Oh no, actually this is the envelope. Just the envelope with a little tag in it. And it's the other one I don't have here. I think this is the one I made. We also made a concertina one with some actual purchased envelopes, really cheap envelopes that I had, and we take the tops off and glue them together down the middle and make your outside bit. That's been made with old book page. It's an old kids dictionary. Put some different papers and things, literally scraps that I've got in some little bags, and yeah, that's pretty cool. I like it. And we all each made an envelope, a concertina file folder type one with a little tag, and I think we did that in one evening, so I think it was quite late when we finished, so that was pretty cool. So the next day Mum actually requested, I think, and said could we make something like the card that I'd actually made her. I'd made her something similar to this, had a little happy birthday on the front and we message in here, but she liked the fact that it had this little angled pocket that I'd put something in. So we said sure, we'll make one of those. So again, that was based around an envelope. I'd adapted an idea that I'd done from someone else. So the envelope's just stuck down, and it really is just something to build around. So it's this is just an envelope. It's got some paper that I purchased off Etsy. I've recently, just recently started purchasing a few papers off some people from Etsy because I've been watching some different channels and I can't remember exactly who they're all from. So what I might do is in my YouTube notes down the bottom I might just list all the people that I have bought from. I've bought papers off 3 or 4 different people, some labels off a couple of different people, and just printed them in different ways. So some of them I've printed onto some transparent sticker paper, you can see it just shining there, and I really like using that. There's 3 bits there. I've been using it quite a lot. This one here is actually the scraps, and so I've been using some stays on ink to stamp on there and just make myself some little strips to use like a faux washi tape, just a border tape really, and the only reason it's round there is to strengthen that little triangle that's been stuck on to make the pocket. So that's pretty cool. And then the next day we started preparing a zine, which took a bit of explaining what a zine was to Mum, and we looked up a few different channels to have her watch other people making them, and I didn't actually find one that made one in the same way that I do, that I originally learnt to do it, so I had to just remind myself. So the way that I make them is just with a piece of copy paper. This is actually slightly heavier. I was going to cut the edges off, and then we decided we wouldn't, because cutting edges off tends not to leave me with very straight edges. So you'll see on here we actually just got a pen and filled those borders with some marks. I actually quite like it. It made it quite effective. So the way I do it is just to fold it over lengthways and then open it out. I always open out and fold it separately, because otherwise when you fold things in half and half again, especially if your paper's slightly thicker, it never really gives you such a tidy result. So fold it that way, and as I say, I could go like that. I prefer to actually either fold it back or open it and fold it back in, and again like that. It's probably just as easy to fold it back this way, because eventually you have to sort out your folds anyway. And I didn't do that very well, never mind, it'll be right. So a couple of the videos that we watched while we were trying to refresh our memories on how to do this actually sliced a bit off their paper. I've never actually done it like that. I've always just done it where you actually just cut along this line here, and I'll do it that way. I think I can see the line better than on the pattern side. You probably can't see it. In fact, I can't really see it. So just cut there and stop at this fold. There you go. So you just have an opening like that. So then if you fold it over lengthways again, then make these two bits pop out, and then it's just a matter of folding it until it feels right. Sometimes when you fold it one way, you get bits hanging over like this, and you'll find that if you fold it a different way, it actually just might put itself in place a bit tidier. In the end, we actually glued these bits down. That one's not matched up very well, so I can just sort of tidy it up a wee bit. Just try and get my folds a bit better, and it will work out. We wished we hadn't actually glued it down, because at the end we thought we should have actually opened Mum's out and copied it, but I have ways around this. So what we did next was put some paint on, because I've been starting to do a few more paper crafts. I want to make sure that I do some mixed media things as well, because I have over the last few years bought quite a few supplies, and of course money invested, I need to use it. So I won't get this done completely, but I'll just show you a little bit of what we did. This just needs a little bit. I do quite like the method of spreading out paint with a credit card. I usually use this here. So it'll do. And this particular paint that I've just got is gold metallic, and it's fairly translucent, so it's not covering up a whole heap. But, so we just put a bit of paint on, just because we'd all used a fairly similar paper. I do know where this one came from. This one comes from Rachel at Roxy's Creations, who's an Australian, so I sort of feel comfortable really watching her, because she sounds a bit more familiar. She doesn't live in Australia, she lives in Italy, but yeah, there's not so many people with a similar accent to me online, so it's quite nice watching her. So I can't fold this right out because it's glued, but you can see we actually used some neon paints, which I really didn't think Mum was going to enjoy, but she quite liked them. So we put the paints on, we put a bit of napkin. This looks like washi, but it's actually part of a napkin. Here's some more, and just did that background in 2 or 3 steps. and then once we've got a bit of texture on there, we put it together as a book and then just did each page separately, and literally using scraps and things I'd stamped on a bit of washi. Aroha means love, and Te Reo Māori, bit of music paper, just words from books. Some of the transparent stickers. It's out of a book that I use for book paper quite often. This is from a stamp that I made myself. So if you see my scraps, I've got 3 folders labelled small, medium and large, and this is literally the rubbish that's in there, just different bits of paper, so it's working out quite well to keep those scraps like that. So that was our zine. Then the next night we made some tags, and these are my 3 tags. There are photos of my sisters and my mother's tags at the end. I liked it like that just because so yeah, I tried to do something that brought them together. What I did was fairly subtle. I've just got the same metallic washi tape on each one, and one of the transparent stickers, it's got some of that somewhere, just little strips of it. Again, I had this little tag that I just incorporated and was quite pleased with how they turned out. So it's pretty cool. We have our favourite cardboard that we use for tags, my sister and I. I don't know if they use the same packaging in other places, but here in New Zealand, Nescafe coffee sachets come in these boxes that on the inside have this very cool texture. So we make our tags out of it and use that as the back. So I started cutting these up, and I of course started making them into separate tags, and then realised that really the best way to start putting on some background paper is just to put it all on at once and then cut it up. This is a cool book I got from a thrift shop recently. It's some, what's it actually called? Nautical tables. So the whole book is pretty similar. I guess it means something to someone. It means nothing to me, but it's just some cool paper to use for my backgrounds. So just going to put some glue on here. And I'll just use a bit of tacky glue around the edges. That way I can do it without hopefully making too much of a mess. And we'll have covered the whole area. So if I can make those sit back together, doesn't really matter. The piece of paper's plenty big enough, and probably need a bit more glue just there. Okay, so I'll just pop that on. And then trim it up. Okay. So we're in the middle of winter here in New Zealand, and probably had our coldest week this week with some horrendous weather a couple of days ago where it was not worth stepping outside. Flights were cancelled, ferry boats were cancelled, everything was cancelled. And the area I live in gets quite windy, so we learned to live with it, and it's settled down a bit now. Okay, so these boxes are 18 centimetres wide, which gives me 3 tags of 6 centimetres. Don't know how that doesn't match up. Don't know how I did it that way. Who knows? So I spend my whole life converting between centimetres and inches. That one should measure, yeah, because my cutter here is in inches. I do have another one that's in centimetres, but this is one I quite like using. So that should give me 3 tags the same. Well, somehow one of them's facing the other way, even though it's was glued from the same piece of paper. Never mind, it doesn't make any difference. So now I will just get some other bits and pieces and scraps and start putting some other things on there. So I should delve into my bag of goodies. Quite like using a few things that I've painted myself. This looks like a gel print. Tissue. Maybe put a piece of that on each one. That's the thing that ties them together. Doesn't like ripping. This tissue seems to be one of those things that has a real grain, rips one way nicely but doesn't like ripping the other way at all, a bit like some fabrics. Okay, let's start with that and see where we get. I have bits and pieces everywhere. This is just a tacky glue that I've put into a little bottle. Let's use that because it's, although glue stick would be fine, it's sort of quicker to do without getting glue everywhere. If this works out, this is probably the first video I've ever made where I actually talk live on screen. I'm not sure that I've got enough to say, but we'll see how we go. I know some people find it quite easy to talk about their day as if they know everyone that's watching, and I guess once they build a community they do know everyone. People who'll be watching this will probably be my sisters, so they know me. I don't have a very huge audience, but who knows, it might grow one day. I've been experimenting with a few different things myself. I know overseas people probably have access to a lot of older documents, old invoice books and accounting books and things, that because our country here in New Zealand is quite a new country, there's probably not quite as much of that sort of stuff, and sadly I think sometimes when you live in a newer country some of those things aren't valued initially and maybe get thrown out in the early years of your history. So it's probably a little bit tricky to find some things. So what I've been doing is getting just some regular, I've got a regular accounting book from stationists and a graph book as well, and been coffee dyeing them myself. In fact, I've just been, they're quite thin paper, so I've just been spraying them with some coffee that I made up, and that's been working quite well. Some of it's just drying, but it's worked out quite well. Just put a little bit of this. Oops, it's quite thin tissue. There we go. Not too particular with how things are going down. I think it all just works out in the end. So I've also been experimenting with my recording just recently, since I started doing some videos again a few weeks ago when I did my iCats, Index Card a Day videos. I think I did 3. I've been using a little, what I think is called a document reader that I bought for school. I'm teach 10-year-olds, and it's quite a good thing to connect so that when kids are looking at a large screen on a TV or a projector, they can see what I'm doing. And it's been quite successful, so I've been trying it for my recording as well. I used to use a cheap version of a GoPro, not a real one, and it meant getting the card out and putting it in my computer and everything, getting the files. So this actually records straight onto my computer, which makes it a bit easier just to access those files. I can see looking at these that they're actually different sizes, so I don't really know what I did when I cut them, but it doesn't matter one drop because they're going to go in different places anyway. So what should we do next? I think I'll show you some of the stickers that I've made. So again, these came from an Etsy store, I think, from someone called Took. If you've done paper crafting, you might have heard of. So let's see if we can find some different colours. So that one's on paper, but I've cut it out fairly well, so we'll just see the difference. This one is on a transparent sticker, so if I put that down there, see we can see through fairly well. If I use this one, we won't, but because it's a darker colour, it wouldn't have been as transparent anyway. Can't get it off. There we go. Got it. And maybe this one. Okay. Right. more or less the same. And make life a little bit easier. That one's not going to work because it's a different size. So these are turning out very much the same. I'm looking at them now thinking I probably should have put some paint or something in the background. I was actually thinking about stamping them and I forgot about that. So maybe I'll have a quick look for something to put on. Doesn't matter if it goes over the top. It's quite a nice set that my sister actually gave me. Let's get this flower, and I think to make life easy we'll just do the same on each one. This isn't a proper acrylic block, something that I can't even remember what it was. I think it was something to do with a foam that works pretty well. Seeing I'm putting that over the top of some other things, I might use, and some of it might go onto these shiny labels. I'll use some stays on. This is spiced chai. Ideally I probably would have put this on the paper before I put anything else on top, but as I say, it doesn't really matter. And there we go. Just gives it a bit more texture. Don't know what's going on there. Try and fix that. It's better. Thought I was going to get that little bit that hadn't been stamped, but it didn't really work out, but we fixed it. It's always fixable. Put that down there, and don't really want it on top of the butterfly, so what I might do is, let's get rid of that ink that's on there, so I don't get completely covered. Just want a bit more at the top there. There we go. That's fine. That's will do. Okay, so I might just do use that one, maybe that one. See what it's going to look like. Yep, it's pretty cool. I might put on that one because it's very similar to the colour of that and quite close. So I'm just put that one in there. I'll just chop it down slightly. Oops. Good if I could do it even. Okay. What I might do is just put a hole through there. Probably should have marked it with a pencil, not stuck the awl through my finger, which I haven't done. Would have been a good idea though. I'll do it with a little hole punch, but I didn't think it would reach that far down. And we'll do this one the right way. See, that's a little bit wide as well. If I just chop it off at that first little curve. Not very good at cutting straight. Make a mark that I can actually see. Yep. There we go. This one. We just cut the whole thing in half. I think I can use the other one on something else. And this one's got a much bigger hole. Probably can reach there, but let's do it with that. There we go. And we will put some little brads in there. These are little tiny ones that I just bought off AliExpress. They're not particularly wonderful. I think the very first one I used, the back snapped off when I opened it out, but I think for what I will use them for, they'll be fine. Might want something a bit bigger in this one, I think. Just want to poke that through there as well. Across the room somewhere. Okay, bit of glue. Oh, actually, I wasn't going to put the hole right through. I remember now. I was going to put it just through that one. So I glued the other bit down on top of that brad. Thought it might be a bit tidier and a bit more secure, but we've got the hole in it now. Never mind. See, what did I say? Oh, no. Thought it snapped off again, but it didn't. It was just together. Okay, so open that one out. See, I was going to stick that down over the top of that so it didn't show, but now I've got a hole there. Doesn't matter. Glue. even put a bit of washi over that in a minute. And also gloss the other bread. Dip silver. There we go. On a stick. Because it's a thicker card. So we might just put a bit of washi on there straight away. Reason that seems to have a lot of bulk. Okay. That's those two done. That's as much as it's getting done at the moment. And this one, I think I've put an eyelet in this one. Blue. I hadn't bought a lot of expensive stuff for a long time. Hadn't been doing as much crafting, so but then I started again, and I've resisted buying a proper dial for a long time. Didn't really see that I needed it. I used to go out onto my kitchen bench with one of those little tools and a hammer and put them in. I thought, okay, if we're going to use them a bit more often, we'll invest in one of these, and it really is quite good, especially if you're going through a lot of thicknesses. Let's see if this works. So, oh yeah, should be fine. Yep, pretty happy with that. There we go. Okay, so it's my 3 little tags that I've made. Let's go with the others. And all the other things that I made last week. Actually, was it last week? Might have only been this week. So that, my zine, I have a little card, and a couple of envelopes, so I'll put some better photos at the end when I've taken them. And yeah, there we go. Thanks for watching. This has been Raewyn. I'm in New Zealand, and I hope you've enjoyed watching. See you next time. Who keeps taking my boots?
got any words? Can't be me.
My words.
Oh, your words.
I had them all set out in order.
Nobody's touched them.
I know, nobody's been.
Oh dear.
It's not even funny.
It's quite funny.
Love.
Maybe it's the same person who took my whole container that I can't find.
Yes. Look at Raewyn, she's lost the whole container.
It's bright blue and I still can't find it. Well, I can see joy on your foot.
That's what I want, joy, love and joy.
It's joy.
You think I need joy. Love, joy, peace. I've got peace. I haven't got the love on yet because I'm still waiting. We're going to
You've
find
still
it.
got two loves.
I know I've got
I'm
love.
not looking
That's
anymore.
the love that
I looked through the whole
love,
bag.
joy, peace.
And I've got all these other
Love,
ones.
joy goes in there.
And I've got
Peace,
all these other ones that are
faith,
written out beautifully.
grace. Oh, then I'll be right. Let's go quick.
I've got smile.
Oh, I could need a smile.
We've got hope.
I hope
Hope that you'll not lose any more words.
the Lord still loves me.
Did you have a hope? Have you used it?
No, I didn't have a hope.
You did.
What's on your list?
You did have a hope. I did it.
Well, I think I couldn't find it, and I think I put trust
Oh,
in.
you've got hope.
I've got
Stuck in.
I have got hopes. I have.
Get your words down.
I'm trying.
Perhaps we should have let us stick a words in first.
I think so.
Well, I haven't got enough pictures anyway now.
Well, if you just tell me where you hid that container,